Today, I'd like to go over one of the biggest things that seems to dysregulate a lot of people that deal with trauma or childhood PTSD, anxiety, and that is overwhelm. In my life, I have found there's two kinds of overwhelm. The first kind is the overwhelm that is caused by outside stimulus. I have a crazy busy week or month coming up, and it is already starting to build up in my mind. It's social events, it's work functions, it's family. It's not necessarily negative things, but it's a lot and it's overwhelming. The other type of overwhelm I've had to deal with is coming from the inside. I am over the top stressed with something emotional that's going on with a friend or a significant other or a family member. And I know when I'm really emotionally overwhelmed and stressed because typically I'll play something in the background during the day, music, a podcast, something. And when I don't turn any of that stuff on, it's because there is so much going on inside my head, my brain can't take anymore. I am mentally and emotionally overwhelmed. When things get busy, things can get really crazy. And that's when everything sort of starts slipping through the cracks. You get overwhelmed and then you're on your couch crying. Or at least I would end up on my couch crying. And everything's falling apart and nothing's getting done. And my house is a mess. And my mental state is gone. And, I've lost my job. And it goes on and on and on, but this is the devastation of dysregulation. And make no mistake, I can still get triggered just like everybody else, and I still get dysregulated. But the real difference is I have started identifying and learning my triggers, and I've also learned healthier ways to deal with myself when I am dysregulated, to cut it off at the knees so it doesn't hit me as hard and I don't end up having one of those really devastating crashes. And that is the goal. More consistent, positive, mentally healthy things for you in your life. One of the reasons I like subjects like this is because I really enjoy preventative measures. Sometimes we can't help but get dysregulated and then we have to deal with it, but I would sure love to avoid that happening if at all possible. If you have a busy time coming up, just try to keep these 3 things done every single day. Keep yourself a clean kitchen, the countertops and the dishes and the refrigerator, because I feel like having a clean space for your food helps you feel healthier. And it's nice when you get up in the morning and you get yourself that first drink of water and cup of coffee to walk into a healthy, clean kitchen. And it also stops you from ordering out more when you're overwhelmed and dysregulated, because it's easier just to grab a pot or a pan and cook something. It's all ready to go for you. The second thing is try to keep your surfaces clear. I pet sit for a living, and man, it's the houses that I pet sit for that have all those smooth, clean, nice marble countertops, and there's nothing on them except maybe like a vase of flowers, and I don't know if I'll ever truly be able to be the lovely lady with her single vase of flowers. But I will say that you can tell, you feel like you can breathe in houses like that. You feel like everything slows down and calms down and you can think. And the third thing I would say is, because this is life and we do live in our houses, just go through once a day and clean up the clutter. I am not talking about washing windows every day or mopping on the daily. I mean, if you have a couple weeks coming up where you're really not going to have time to do that stuff, keep your kitchen clean, keep the counters clear, and do a walkthrough of your house once a day. Anything you worked on or took out that day, just put it away. This takes minutes if you do it once a day. And all that deep cleaning stuff, save it for a week where you're not as busy. The weird thing is I find that outside overstimulation, overwhelm, just from a packed schedule, and mental overwhelm with what's going on inside, I deal with them in completely opposite ways. Again, if you saw the video last week, we talked about the Good Morning, I Love You. I would highly recommend watching that video if you're dealing with mental stress and dysregulation. I'll put the link for it down below. What I do to deal with that sort of thing that we talked about was I'll sit down the night before and I will plan out every single moment of my day the next day. So I don't have to make decisions or think about anything because I'm going through a time of serious mental dysregulation. I control my motor skills. I constantly refer to the list. All I do is robotically follow what's on the list. My brain can do whatever it wants. I've planned out every single minute, and I'm going to stay productive even when I'm dysregulated. However, When I am feeling overwhelmed by outside stimuli and I'm like, oh my gosh, tomorrow I have 10,000 things to do. The way I deal with that, the way I calm myself down and I condense everything. I actually don't refer to my chore checklist that I normally do every single day. I make an even smaller list. The only thing I write down on my list is everything I need to do the next day to survive. And here's what that looks like. I make sure that I go to work that day because I need to go to work in order to keep my job, keep my paycheck, pay my bills, and keep a roof over my head. That's survival. I need to make sure that my daughter is safe. That's my family. That's survival. I need to make sure that for at least 20 minutes that day, 20 minutes, I work up a sweat. Walking around the block, jumping jacks, dumbbells, it doesn't matter. Elliptical machine for 20 minutes. That's it. It's not a long time, and it does a world of good for you. I need to make sure that I eat 3 meals and they're not junk food. That's it. 3 meals, not junk. Doesn't matter what it is, but it can't be full of sugar. And the 5th thing is I need to make sure that I do at least those 3 things that I talked about earlier, which is keeping the kitchen clean, getting the clutter out of the house, and keeping the countertops cleared off, so that I can continue to function and not look around and get completely overwhelmed as my day goes on. That's only 5 things. So now I know that there's a lot of very intricate things that go with this, but there's something about writing 5 things down on a piece of paper like, oh, that's all I have to do tomorrow in order to function as a human being and survive and get through the day. Well, that takes 10,000 things down to 5. And physically looking at it, there's something about it. It just calms me down, and it just becomes 5 things, way more manageable than 10,000. You heard it here first. I'm a big checklist person because, again, when you have dysregulation, you never really know what's going to set you off. It's good to learn things that do, but sometimes things hit you totally unexpectedly. You don't know how you're going to wake up in the morning. You can't trust how you're going to feel. And we have to learn how to get important things done and get things done regardless of how we feel. And that's what these lists are. These lists help you practice emotional self-control and self-regulation. I think of these lists as a way to keep my head above water. Like if you watch anything about people that dive in underwater caves, the safest way to do it is they have a line that they attach to something on the surface, and then they take the line with them, because caves are really dark and they can get really scary and they can get really disorienting. And a lot of times it's very easy for people to get swept up in them and lost, and bad things can happen. But as long as they have that line with them, they can follow that line back to the surface. And that's how I feel like these lists are. No matter what happens in my day, I refer back to the list. And these are the things that I follow the line, and then at the end of the day, things haven't overwhelmed me, and I can keep my head above water. And this is a lifestyle. This is a practice. No one changes their life overnight. This is something that I practice on a daily basis. It's kind of like crash diets. Everyone says, don't crash diet. You'll end up gaining all the weight back as soon as you go back to the way that you were living before. And that's what this is. It's not a crash diet. It's a practice. You practice every day like meditation, and you start forming these habits, and a lot of things become more consistent. I can keep my weight within a healthier range more consistently. My house is cleaned more consistently. I can more consistently work without having crashes. And you know what? My relationships are better. When you learn what you need and start setting boundaries around it, and people come into your life and they're like, I don't understand why you have to go to the gym. I don't understand why, we can't just blah, 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 and you need to do all these things. And, oh, that's silly. Or they start poking fun at you for it. It'll start raising huge red flags that you might not have seen before, because you're like, this person might be toxic. This person might not understand boundaries. This person might not be good for me in my life. Maybe I should separate myself. Go ahead and try some of these tips. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think or how they worked for you, and I will talk to you very soon.